Before the story begins, listen closely, because what you are about to hear is not just a tale, but a testimony wrapped in pain, silence, and divine justice. If stories of betrayal turning into restoration, of tears becoming crowns, move your heart, subscribe now, like this video, and stay with us till the end. And as you listen, comment below. Do you believe destiny can be delayed but never denied? Now, listen. The palace drums did not beat for joy that morning. They thundered like warning bells. Women gathered at the palace gates, clutching their wrappers tightly to their chests. Men stood with arms folded, eyes lowered. Even the birds seemed to avoid the skies above Umoba Kingdom, as though creation itself did not want to witness what was about to happen. In the wide courtyard of red earth and carved pillars, a woman knelt. Her knees were bruised, her feet were bare. Her wrapper was torn at the hem, yet her back was straight. Princess Zainabu, wife to Prince Obina, first son of the great King Ezeani Uku, lifted her face slowly. Dust clung to her cheeks, but her eyes, those eyes, still carried dignity. Zainabu, daughter of nobody, the Queen Mother spat, her voice sharp like broken pottery. Today, you leave this palace the same way you came into this world, empty. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Zainabu's fingers trembled, but she did not beg. How many years? The king asked coldly. 7, the chief priest replied. And how many children? None. The king slammed his staff into the ground. Then she is cursed. The word echoed like thunder. Zainabu closed her eyes. 7 years ago, she had entered this palace dancing. Today, she would crawl out of it barefoot. What none of them knew, what no one in Umoba Kingdom could imagine, was that this same woman, kneeling in disgrace, would one day return through those gates as a queen, carrying a child destined to expose the darkest lie ever buried by a royal crown. But first, she would be broken. Zainabu was not born royalty. She came from Okpuru village, a quiet settlement where the soil was dark and fertile, and people lived simply by farming and faith. Her mother died early. Her father raised her with 2 things only, truth and prayer. She may not have riches, the elders often said, but her heart is clean. When Prince Obina first saw her at the New Yam festival, he forgot how to breathe. She danced, not to impress, but with joy. Her laughter rang like a river hitting stones. The prince followed her home like a boy possessed. Against palace expectations, Obina chose her. The wedding shook Oba, gold wrappers, royal masquerades, drums for 7 days. Zainabu was bathed in milk and oils, crowned with coral beads, and carried into the palace amid cheers. That night, the Queen Mother whispered to the king, "Let us see if this village girl can produce an heir." Zainabu heard nothing. She only loved her husband. The first year passed gently. The second year brought whispers. By the 3rd year, palace maids stopped smiling at her. By the 4th year, herbal concoctions replaced affection. The Queen Mother summoned priests. The priests summoned spirits. The spirits demanded sacrifices. Every moon cycle, Zainabu knelt in shrines until her knees bled. Still, no child. Prince Obina began to change. He stopped touching her, stopped defending her, stopped looking at her like a wife. "You are blocking my destiny," he said one night, drunk with palm wine and bitterness. That night, something broke inside her chest. If you've ever been blamed for something beyond your control, comment below. Your voice matters. It happened during the Festival of Heirs, a sacred day where royal wives paraded their children before the ancestors. Zainabu stood alone. The Queen Mother laughed. She has nothing to show the spirits. The king rose. From today, he declared, Zainabu is no longer wife to my son. She is barren, and barrenness is a curse. Obina said nothing, not one word. That silence hurt more than the insults. They stripped her of royal beads, removed her silk wrapper, cut her hair. When she begged to wear sandals, the queen mother sneered. Did you wear sandals when you came empty? They pushed her to the gates, barefoot, bleeding, humiliated. The palace doors slammed shut behind her. Zainabu did not curse them. She lifted her eyes to the sky. God who sees in silence, she whispered, I leave my case in your hands. Then she vanished into the forest. Pause for a moment. Would you have survived this without hatred? Share your thoughts in the comments. Zainabu walked until her feet hardened like stone. She found refuge in Alaocha village, where an old widow took her in. She farmed. She prayed. She healed others with herbs. Years passed. Her beauty matured into something deeper. Strength. One night, after nearly 9 years of exile, she collapsed during prayer. A voice, clear as water, spoke within her spirit. You are not barren. You are hidden. 3 months later, she felt it. Life, growing, inside her. She cried until morning. Back in Umoba, Prince Obina was preparing to marry Princess Adesuwa of the River Kingdom. Invitations were sent everywhere. One reached Alaocha, addressed to Zainabu, herbal healer. She touched her stomach, now gently rounding, and smiled. Heaven, she whispered, the time has come. If you feel something big is about to happen, tap like let's continue. The wedding drums shook Umoba again, but this time the ground trembled differently. A procession arrived. Women gasped. Men froze. Zainabu stepped down from a carriage, clothed in white and gold, glowing, pregnant, crowned with authority. Beside her stood King Adekunle of the Eastern Plains. My wife, he announced. The palace fell silent. The queen mother fainted. Prince Obina dropped his staff. Zainabu met his eyes, calm, victorious. This child, she said softly, will expose the lie you buried. And heaven opened its book. Stay till the end, because the truth is about to destroy a kingdom. And remember, what God has ordained, no human rejection can cancel. For a long moment, after King Adekunle declared Zainabu his wife, no drum sounded, no flute breathed, no foot shifted. The entire courtyard of Umoba Palace stood frozen, as if the ancestors themselves had descended and commanded stillness. Prince Obina's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The queen mother, sprawled on the ground where she had fainted, was slowly revived by palace maids, palm fronds fluttering over her face. When her eyes finally opened and she saw Zainabu standing upright, crowned, radiant, and visibly pregnant, she screamed, "This is witchcraft." Zainabu did not flinch. She rested one calm hand on her belly. "Witchcraft," she repeated softly. "No, mother of the palace. This is truth, working at its own time." King Adekunle raised his hand, and his guards stepped forward, not to arrest Zainabu, but to protect her. "I did not come to disturb your wedding," he said, his voice carrying the authority of a ruler who feared no one. "I came because the past has teeth, and today it bites." When Zainabu was exiled, she did not know that fate had already begun rearranging itself. Alaosha village, where she found refuge, was small, but sacred. The land there was known to answer prayers slowly, but permanently. The old widow who took her in, Mama Nkiru, had once been a midwife to kings before she fled palace life herself. "You carry sorrow like a crown," Mama Nkiru said, the first night Zainabu arrived. "But crowns return to those who wear them with patience." Zainabu did not argue. She worked. She healed. She prayed. She refused bitterness like poison. Years later, when bandits attacked Alaosha, it was Zainabu who stood before them, chanting ancient psalms Mama Enkiru had taught her. The men fled in terror, claiming the ground beneath her feet burned like fire. News traveled. A king heard. That king was Adekunle. Adekunle arrived not as a ruler, but as a wounded man. His kingdom had wealth, land, and power, but his palace lacked peace. His first wife had died childless, and the elders blamed the gods. When he met Zainabu, she did not bow. She looked him in the eyes. "You are not cursed," she told him calmly. "You are grieving." No one had spoken to him like that in years. He stayed. He watched her heal the sick, feed the poor, pray in silence. When he asked her to marry him, she hesitated. "I have been called barren," she said. Adekunle smiled sadly. "Then let us be barren together. Better empty with truth than full of lies." He married her quietly. 3 years later, she conceived. If you believe what is delayed can still arrive in glory, type Amen in the comments. Back in Umoba, the royal wedding had collapsed into chaos. Princess Adesuwa stood confused, her bridal veil slipping from her fingers. "What is happening?" she whispered. King Adekunle turned to her gently. "Child, you were brought into a lie you did not create." Then he faced the old king of Umoba. "Before my wife was cast out," Adekunle said, "your palace performed a ritual meant to test her womb." The chief priest stiffened. Zainabu stepped forward. "That ritual," she said, her voice clear and steady, "was poison, not medicine." The crowd gasped. The priest fell to his knees. We were told," he stammered. The queen mother said, "Enough," the king thundered. The truth spilled like broken calabash. The herbs given to Zainabu years ago were designed to prevent conception, so the queen mother could later accuse her of barrenness and remove her from the line of inheritance. The palace roared. Prince Obina collapsed. "My mother," he whispered. The queen mother screamed, clawing at the ground. "I did it for the throne." The king of Umoba rose slowly. "For years," he said, voice shaking, "I condemned an innocent woman." He turned to Zainabu and knelt. "Forgive me." Zainabu watched him quietly. "I forgive you," she said, "but forgiveness does not erase consequences." That night, the queen mother was stripped of her title. The priest was banished. Prince Obina lost his claim to the throne, and Zainabu, she refused the throne of Umoba. "I have a kingdom already," she said, touching her womb, "and a crown that was not made by hands." Months later, Zainabu gave birth to a son. The child did not cry immediately. He opened his eyes, bright, alert, and stared at the world. The elders whispered, "This child carries destiny." They named him Chinonso, God is near. On the day of his naming ceremony, rain fell gently under a clear sky. A sign. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who feels forgotten. And tell us below, what part moved you the most? Years later, travelers spoke of a queen who healed kingdoms, not with war, but wisdom. They said she once walked barefoot in shame, but now walked barefoot by choice, because the ground itself honored her steps. And in Umoba kingdom, whenever a woman was accused too quickly, elders would whisper, "Remember Zainabu, the one heaven defended." When King Adekunle spoke the words, "my wife," it was as if time itself stumbled. The air in Umoba Palace thickened. Not a single child cried. Not a goat bleated. Even the masquerades standing by the pillars felt suddenly heavy in their raffia skins. Zainabu stood still, not because she was afraid, but because she had waited years for this stillness. This was the silence that follows truth. Prince Obinna felt his knees weaken. His chest burned, not with anger, but with a regret so sharp it felt like a blade twisting inside his ribs. This was the woman I abandoned. He remembered her laughter when she first arrived at the palace. The way she used to sit quietly beside him during council meetings, saying nothing, yet somehow calming him. The nights she cried silently, thinking he was asleep. He had called her barren. Now she stood before him, full of life. The Queen Mother's scream was not the cry of an innocent woman. It was the sound of a secret finally breathing air. No, she shrieked, dragging herself across the earth. This woman is an evil spirit. She left empty. Empty. Zainabu looked at her, not with hatred, but with pity. You feared losing power, she said quietly. So you killed love instead. The words struck harder than any slap. The elders exchanged glances. Some lowered their heads. They had suspected, but they had chosen comfort over truth. And now, truth had returned pregnant. As the palace descended into murmurs, Zainabu's mind drifted, not forward, but backward. To the day she was banished, her feet on the gravel, the heat of the sun burning her scalp after they shaved her hair, the laughter of palace maids who once called her my queen. She remembered stopping at the palace gate. She had turned back once. Just once. Prince Obinna was standing there. She had waited for him to say her name. He didn't. That silence followed her for years. Ala Osha village did not welcome Zainabu with celebration. They welcomed her with curiosity. A barefoot woman, royal posture, empty hands. Mama Nkiru was the only one who did not ask questions. Sit, she said, handing Zainabu water. Pain speaks when it is ready. That night, Zainabu cried, not loudly, not dramatically, but like someone releasing poison drop by drop. Mama Nkiru listened. When Zainabu finished, the old woman said something strange. They did not send you away because you were barren. They sent you away because your child would not belong to them. Zainabu did not understand then, but heaven already did. Time in exile does not move like time in a palace. It drags. Zainabu woke before dawn, farmed until her palms hardened, healed villagers without payment, prayed until her voice cracked. Every month, when blood came, she sat alone under the udala tree and whispered, still not yet. She never asked why me. She only asked, teach me. That prayer changed everything. It happened on a night without moon. Zainabu had been praying for others, never herself, when her body suddenly weakened. She fell flat on the earth. The wind stopped. Then the voice came. Not loud, not frightening, certain. What they called emptiness was preparation. Zainabu wept, not because of the promise, but because she was finally seen. When she later realized she was pregnant, she did not shout. She knelt and thanked God for trusting her with destiny. King Adekunle listened to her story without interrupting. When she finished, she waited for the familiar change in a man's eyes. It never came. Then they were afraid, he said simply. Afraid of truth, afraid of legacy, afraid of a woman whose strength did not beg permission. He married her not to save her, but to stand beside her. Princess Adesua was crying quietly now. I was told she was cursed, she said. Zainabu approached her and took her hands. You are innocent, she said, and you deserve a love not built on another woman's tears. That mercy shook the crowd more than anger ever could. When the chief priest finally spoke the truth, Elders beat their chests. Some men cried openly. They had watched injustice and called it tradition. The old king of Umoba, aged 10 years in that moment. Our kingdom, he said, broken, rejected its own blessing. Zainabu could have demanded punishment. She did not. I survived, she said, not so I could destroy you, but so I could prove that God does not need permission to bless. That sentence became proverb. If this story is stirring something deep inside you, share it. Someone else is waiting to feel seen. Chinonso grew quietly. He laughed easily, listened deeply, spoke wisely beyond his age. When he first walked into Umoba years later, elders bowed, not to royalty, but to redemption. The Queen Mother, now old and forgotten, watched from afar. She understood too late. Zainabu never returned to beg. She returned to close a wound. And long after her time, mothers would tell their daughters, if the world calls you empty, walk away. Heaven fills in silence